Do you remember Terminator Dark Fate? No, I don't blame you. You probably don't remember it very well because most people didn't go see it. It was a financial disaster for the studio, and it rightfully was a big dud because, well, one, no one really asked for it. Two, it was like the third or fourth reboot for the Terminator franchise in a very short time because we got Terminator 3, which followed Terminator 2, and then they decided we're going to kind of forget about Terminator 3, and they did the Terminator movie with Christian Bale. Most people were kind of indifferent on that one. Then they decided they weren't going to do that either, and they moved on and did Terminator Genesis, a complete reboot that went back and rebooted from Terminator 1. They decided they were going to redo the entire franchise. That didn't do very well. And then James Cameron came back and said, well, I'm going to redo everything, and ignores everything after Terminator 2, decides to wipe Terminator 2's legacy from existence by taking John Connor out right at the end, or right at the beginning of this movie. And that's where a lot of the problems for this movie come from. The way John Connor was treated, I didn't care for that. It immediately turned me off to the movie. To me, personally, I consider Terminator 2 a masterpiece. It still holds up today, and I think it's one of the best action movies ever made. You can feel free to disagree with me. That's just how I feel. So to find out that the movie was pretty much just cast aside, and it was because, well, what does John Connor's life mean? What did it matter so much for him to survive if you're just going to wipe him out at the beginning of this movie? I feel a lot of people agree with me on this, and there's so many better ways they could have done this film, and I've talked about that before. You could have still made John Connor a very important piece of this movie, and they decided to just insult all of his fans at the beginning. I do think that John Connor treatment had a lot to do with this movie being a disaster. And I'm not even into the woke stuff yet. So the movie did bad. It crashed and burned. And then we have the same MO that these people do. Every time there's a bad reaction to a movie like this, we get stuff like this. Tim Miller says Terminator Dark Fate will scare the crap out of misogynistic internet trolls. That's right. We had people attached to this movie, notably the director, coming out and talking really bad about people that were putting the film down. Of course, anybody that's airing out any criticism of the movie is, of course, an istophobe. That was a big thing. And it's really funny. Every time this happens, when a director comes out and attacks fans, it never works out very well. I can think of two other instances off the top of my head where this has happened, and it's pretty much ruined the franchise and divided fans up completely. It's a surefire way to lose money. The biggest example of this is, of course, Ghostbusters 2016. Where you had Paul Feig come out and say, oh, all these man babies, all these istophobic fans, blah, blah, blah. They're scared of whammon. That movie is probably the most historic, and I believe it was the first one to do something like this. It was a complete dud. And the media never let it go. And then, of course, there's also The Last Jedi. While it was actually a successful movie, at least financially, it was in some ways also a box office disappointment because that's the film that led to the division of Star Wars. You have a lot of fans split down the middle on this movie. You've got, of course, the new fans or the neo fans or whatever, the ones that love that unstructured pile of trash trilogy, notably just because of the things that are in it, in the check boxes. Then you have some fans that did like them. I would like to see what they think about these movies in about 5 years after the dust is settled. And then you have fans that just felt like the movie slapped them in the face, the treatment of Luke and stuff. There was legitimate criticism for that. And that film, of course, I put it in this category that it because you had the director, Rian Johnson, calling fans man babies. He still spits on Star Wars fans. He was a terrible choice. They should have never picked him to direct that film. But anyway, let's move on. So this movie was so bad, it's effectively killed the Terminator franchise. So Mackenzie Davis, in an interview, she said there's no demand for a sequel. Let me read you the story here. Terminator Dark Fate star Mackenzie Davis doesn't think that there will be a 7th Terminator movie, saying that there just wasn't a demand for it. Well, that was obvious. There really was no need to make this movie. I don't know why James Cameron went down this road. He just got the rights back to it. He should have did the movie himself. Him and Tim Miller had a lot of clashing behind the scenes. That's something that was a big deal, I think, and why this movie was so bad. However, the idea to take out John Connor from the beginning, that was James Cameron's idea as well. So even if he had just made this movie by himself, I don't think it would have been any good. I think it's just time to just lay the Terminator franchise to rest. And I think it took a movie this bad for it to finally happen. I mean, some movies just don't need sequels. The franchise ending at Terminator 2 would have been just fine. Though we did get one very good property. If you've never seen Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, that's worth checking out, in my opinion. They didn't finish it, unfortunately. But that is actually a very, very good TV show that could have used... It should have kept going. It was really good, but I imagine they canceled it because of budget, and it just didn't get a big audience. But anyway, Davis plays Grace, an enhanced super soldier who travels back in time to protect the future leader of the rebellion, a woman named Danny. The 2019 film, which features Linda Hamilton's return to the franchise as Sarah Connor, did well with critics, but didn't make a lot of money at the box office. Once again, doing well with critics, just that doesn't guarantee success because a lot of people just don't trust them anymore. A lot of people just don't trust critics. And can you blame them? They're liars. A lot of the time, critics lie. They don't want to upset studios and companies. They've admitted to this. They admitted to this with Captain Marvel. Like, well, sometimes you just gotta bite your tongue. That was a very famous clip that got circulated around talking about how critics will just kind of jump on a grenade sometimes for movies to make studios happy. So anyway, this part just goes over James Cameron coming back. We can go right to here. Mackenzie Davis spoke about the future of the Terminator franchise in an interview with NME. While promoting her upcoming movie, Irresistible, starring Steve Carell and Rose Byrne, Davis was asking about Terminator Dark Fate and if there would be another sequel. She says that while she is proud of what we did and loves the movie, to think that there would be a demand for a 7th film is quite insane. Davis argues that audiences want new things, not big franchises with multiple sequels. Well, the Marvel Cinematic Universe would highly disagree with you on that one, Mackenzie Davis. I gotta say, I think that Endgame is the most successful movie of all time, I believe. I believe it beat Avatar. Finally, somebody beat that movie. Oh, it's an overrated movie, in my opinion. Those movies would disagree with you very highly. But, she's not going to say, oh, they just didn't like our terrible take on the franchise. We ruined it. She got us, it would be, I think, bad form to go too hard on it. This is a pretty neutral ground answer, a middle ground answer, saying, oh, they just didn't like it. She gets to avoid all of the, answers that could probably hurt her career. But she is right on one thing. I do think that for some franchises, fans don't want multiple sequels. Notably, messy sequels like Terminator. Like I said, this is like the 3rd or 4th time they've rebooted the franchise. At that point, you're just done. Like, you can't just keep doing that. You confuse people. It doesn't make any sense. They should have just, instead of rebooting from Terminator 1 and 2 or whatever they did, how they took out John Connor. This is technically a soft reboot because they still kept Terminator 1 and 2. They should have just rebooted everything and started from scratch. That would have been the more appropriate way to do this film, because then you don't irritate people with John Connor. You just start over and you make something new. That would have been the better route, but I still think you would have needed to wait a little bit longer, especially after, 3 other sequels that aren't even connected really. And it's just confusing for people. But anyway, there are many interesting people that don't fit the mold of those who make these big franchises, who have not had the chance to make movies. We should stick to investing in them right now. And she goes on to say, Davis argues that audiences want new things, not big franchises, multiple sequels. Continuing on with that sentiment, Davis highlights the importance of searching for original voices with original stories. I would like more original stories. I'm not going to disagree with that. I like new stuff. I'm tired of Hollywood going back and rebooting things and remaking franchises. Most of the time, they're always terrible. Look to that RoboCop remake, a movie that never needed to be remade in the first place. That movie was not that good. It didn't need to be made. They do it all the time. They're doing it again with Pirates of the Caribbean. You're going to get 2 female-led Pirates of the Caribbeans. Please be excited. And that's pretty much it. Kind of a catch-up on what happened video and a funeral in some ways, because it's nice to see someone finally admit it. A Terminator as a franchise is likely finished. I don't see them ever making another one. There's just really no point. They've managed to devalue the brand so badly. I just think no one wants to see another one, particularly to this. And they set this up for like a trilogy. They thought this was going to be so good. They were going to make a trilogy. This is not going to happen. Genesis was supposed to get a trilogy too. It didn't happen. So really sad. This could have really been a great franchise if they really wanted to go down that route. And I'm not talking about with this film. There's so many ways they could have done this, and they just messed it up. And it's unfortunate. But we still have Terminator 1 and 2. Those aren't going anywhere. And we can just ignore Dark Fate. You don't really need to watch it. It doesn't really matter too much. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give me your thoughts on all this. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you would, share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Throw a like up. Also, very important. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.
What a story, Mark.